but I had a very good translator. And he was talking about knowledge and information. It is about information and knowledge. And bringing all that together so that citizens' ideas, the best of all of us in our societies across the world, the diversity, the history, the knowledge is incredible. And we all talk about diversity, not just nature, but knowledge all the time. But when it comes together and we have these 193 tables with 193 names of countries, the people who sit there have a responsibility not just for governments, but for 6 billion people today. And how do we bring all the knowledge and the intensity of energy, the fact that you are here today on a topic that is frustrating, scary, but at the same time, hopeful. We are here because we believe we can do something and we want to do something. I have a son who is a big soccer fan. And his biggest, one of his biggest idols of soccer now is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And the other day he told me, "Mama, you have to see this, YouTube when he, kicked the ball that way, right? He didn't know where he was going, but he actually knew where he was going because he's trained and trained and trained. And he had a goalpost. He knew where the goalpost was. He knew what the rules were, and he had a target, as you know about targets. And he kicked it. People said he didn't see where he was kicking. But I believe, and my son certainly believes, he knew exactly where he wanted the ball to go to. So, was it impossible? Yes, for many people. But did he do it? Yes, he did it. What does it mean? It is possible. We would not be here if we thought it was impossible. And so, when we talk about climate and the global economy, when I was given this topic by SSNC, I thought, oh wow, I can't do it in 3 minutes, But we do know that the reason why we are global warming, we have done so much damage to the planet. I mean, pollution, we've been fighting. Many of us sitting around here, even the young people who are interested, is because your parents, your teachers, your grandparents have started to fight for sustainability for many, many generations. And many of us who still live in countries where traditional societies still have traditional knowledge, where we still don't use chemicals, where we live a life that can be of such high quality of welfare and community and family, but with very low material consumption, and still be a fulfilled community. But that is not to be romantic, because for that to happen, you must have that dignity of life that comes from having clean water, nutritious food. Your children can go to school, and go to school not to learn the wrong things, but to learn the right knowledge systems. We've all fought for that. So before global warming and climate change became the starting point, many generations have been fighting for the right kind of development of society. And when we talk about all these greenhouse gases that have accumulated, the long-lived gas, especially of carbon dioxide, and the related greenhouse gases, that long-lived gas that we have poisoned the world with, was the result, and is the result, of an economic model that is so reliant on fossil fuels. And we know that. We know that. So to be able to break that chain, because we need to have such huge steps of changing the way we deal and develop our societies. That was what 1992 was about. So we cannot talk about the negotiations in Doha in the next few days as if it's only about one United Nations convention called the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or Kyoto Protocol, which is a very important treaty that most people want to throw into the rubbish bin. These two internationally legally binding. And I say legally binding because we always read in the newspapers, we need a new global legally binding deal, as if we have no international law now. We do have international law. And that international law called the UNFCCC and the Kyoto Protocol was the result of very hard negotiations. I remember as NGOs back in 1992, we were very critical about the Rio Declaration, Agenda 21 on Sustainable Development. We were very critical about the Climate Change Treaty. We were very critical about the Biodiversity Convention because we said it was not good enough, because we had such high standards, and we must have those high standards because we want to have a world that is not just fair and just, but that actually protects the planet. So it is very important to have high standards. But now, in 2012, looking back at all those amazing agreements that came out of 1992, it is a miracle. It looks so impossible today. So what happened? In the last 20 years, we actually started in 1992 with the right instruments in terms of the international laws for international cooperation. I've grown up as a person who believes in the United Nations. For all its problems now, I still believe in the United Nations. Because if we want democracy, which we all fight for at home, in all our countries. I come to Sweden every now and then. I listen to the debate you are having. You are fighting every day to keep democracy and participation, so that policies are made with citizens' thinking and ideas. And the fact that this group is so mixed today is precisely about democracy. So democracy is never achieved. We're constantly getting there, and it can slip away, and we must always fight to keep it going and keep it stronger. So we do that in all our countries. If it is hard in Sweden to be number one, because you can, and you're still not there, as Mikael has just said, how difficult it is for so many other different countries in the developing world. The United States, which is still historically and continuing to be the biggest global greenhouse gas emitter, if you take into account the consumption levels in the United States, 20% of China's emission through production and manufacturing is actually consumed at the end, mostly in the United States and Europe and other developed countries. So one of the things that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which is doing the assessment now, is doing, is to start looking at consumption-based emissions, not just geographical where the emission is coming out. Because if you dig into all these factors, then the picture changes. And in the end, why do we need to have this information and knowledge? Because ultimately, to solve any problem at the local level, at the national level, at the global level, it's about knowing the truth. It is about understanding the situations in the diversity of all our countries. Even within Sweden, the North and the South are still trying to understand each other, I think, right? So can you imagine when you take it to the global level? So of course it is difficult when you come to the United Nations and a few people represent governments to try and do these big things. And that's why it is not going to be easy, but it can be done, because we have no choice. We have no choice. But we do have a big problem, because the biggest principle around which we have to organize ourselves at home, in all our countries, and especially at the global level, is the principle of equity. This was a principle at the highest level by the heads of states in 1992, was recognized. Historical responsibility is not an academic debate. Why was the world ready to acknowledge that a few countries having lack of knowledge of the full understanding of fossil fuels and that kind of energy and the impact on the climate, the wrong kind of economy that gives us casino financial speculation, right? We've lost trillions. We talk about a few hundred billions here and there to save the planet. We say we can't come up with the money. But trillions have gone in the financial crisis every 10 years. Trillions have gone into the casino economy. And yet, it's not being fixed. And we are told 100 billion is so difficult to get. And mind you, for the last 20 years, all the promises for developing countries to not follow the same destructive path, that we will go sustainable. But the lead has to come from the countries which have more capacity. And I think Sweden led a very good example in the 90s. I come from Malaysia. My Minister of Environment, after the Rio 1992 conference, worked with your Minister of Environment, Sven Aken? I can't remember, the Minister of Sweden. They got together, and two individuals actually, who believed that they can do something. So Sweden and Malaysia co-sponsored what became the Convention on POPs, on chemicals. Right? Sweden worked with developing countries to fight for a biosafety protocol at the UN level to be able to look honestly at genetically modified organisms. So it can be done. We have those individuals who can do it also. So I want to end by saying that equity is so important, and the reason why we have all this frustrating inability to come to better global understanding and do more action together is because the powerful are influencing Washington, many parts of Europe, Canada, Japan, because the bad economy continues to be very powerful. And those are the people who do not want equity. So blaming China is the easiest thing. I live in China. I know how hard it is that that country is now trying to take 1.3 billion people into a life of dignity. It is very, very difficult, and we need equity as an operating principle. So back to football. If we play by the same rules, and we respect the game, and the referee is fair, we can all get there. But if we keep changing the rules and all the time, then even Zoltan will not be able to get the goal into the goalpost. So thank you very, very much.
Yoke Ling, thank you so much. It can be done. That's a really good quote. Karo and Svante, what is your thoughts on this topic?
I would like to ask you if you have to mention like 3 things for governments to really do and agree and do in their countries, and also 3 things that an ordinary person in its ordinary life should do that is most important to really change this. What would you say?
I think the first thing I would say is energy, right? Because we are talking about more than what, a few billion people in the world are still poor. My friend Chandra from India will tell you there are people who have never seen things with electricity. We have a lot of poor people in the world. But we need energy to get there. So renewable energy is the way, and it can be done. But there are lots of obstacles. So I would say let's work to remove the obstacles and get to renewable energy. Second, agriculture. We have fought for sustainable agriculture, ecological agriculture, no chemicals for many, many, many generations. It can be done. We have so much information, it's happening on the ground. Again, the obstacles. We have to remove those obstacles. Corporate interests, lack of understanding. Third is health. Because all the money in the world cannot buy good health. And we are poisoning ourselves from chemicals to just everything. So I would put a lot of emphasis on health. But all this need resources. So let's free up from the right place in the planet to wrong place to the right place.
On Monday, we will start the new negotiation process in Doha, and I wonder what could be the best outcome from this meeting in Doha?
Well, actually, yesterday some of us were at the Swedish Parliament, and we had a discussion. And some people thought I sounded quite optimistic about Doha. Actually, I'm not very optimistic about Doha. I don't think it is about Doha. I think we think that somehow one conference will solve all the problem. The Climate Change Convention has been there since 1992. They meet every year, and they do some really good things. The fact that we can do greenhouse gas inventories, that we have started doing adaptation, and all those many things, a lot of good things have come out. Why do we think it's always a collapse? Because of Copenhagen. In 2007, they wanted to change the rules of football and make it into basketball. All right? By changing those rules, and they didn't get to change the rules, they say that the game is over. No. So for me, Doha is not going to be solving all the problems, but I want Doha to build trust. I would like to see Sweden persuade the European Commissioner not to push an unfair deal on developing countries, and so that we can talk honestly. Because right now the pressure is to say, it's the China and the India, that's the problem. And the United States is actually saying, we will try to do as best as we can, but we are very, hampered by our Congress. That's not good enough.
What do you think that our Prime Minister, our Environmental Minister, what would she, money on the table, what do you need?
The money thing is quite complicated. It's not just about developing countries saying, here's the bill, pay us. No. The whole idea of money under the convention is that it is new and additional money that comes from the historical responsibility. I like what Mikhail said about responsibility. It's sharing responsibility. So where there's capacity and money, bring it to us. The last 20 years, a lot of the money that came didn't come as actually climate justice and compensation, because we didn't cost global warming in developing countries, but many of them were loans. So we had to pay back those money. So let's really have a proper understanding of money. Sweden is going to put some money on the table, but let the money go where it should go. So let's work together to make sure the money goes where it should go also.
I think a lot of people feel sometimes scary and hopeless and so on, but you are really the symbol of the opposite. You have so much energy. And what do you find your inspiration, and how do you feel like so much hope?
Because, when we're talking about climate coming from, 2 degrees and targets, it makes us, you're an athlete, you understand what this means. That target, sometimes, it's not really about that. Of course, that's where you want to go to. But it's all the work you need to do. I am very optimistic because all my life, I started working, and I continue to try to do that. Working with people at the community level. Working with people in government, many of you are here, who really want to fight for policies. So we find that when we work together, like-minded people, inside, outside, village, urban areas, then together we can become a strong force. I'm optimistic because every day, while I see frustration in the Doha kind of place, I also see so much hope when people don't give up.
Thanks.
Check if there is any Twitter questions. Do we have any Twitter questions? No. Final question.
Do you think that people in this negotiation process believe that each emissions is money? No. It's a debate on money.
No, the debate is not on money, and I think sometimes it's wrongly put as just money. But of course, many developing countries...
Do they believe that the emissions generate money and welfare?
Is
it about
that? No,
you
see, if you are poor, if you're very, very poor, and you are using kerosene, or you're forced to burn wood, because it's the only way you can get energy, and your government goes to a negotiation, and you are told, that's black carbon. Now, Sweden is doing something about black carbon. It's a problem. But I wouldn't call black carbon something to add on to move away from what we are not doing about CO2 and who should do it. Black carbon is a health issue, all right? Let's bring renewable energies to those poor women all across the South. Don't call it a greenhouse issue, call it a health issue and not having renewable energy. We turn it around, then we build more trust. But if Sweden goes, and your minister is taking a strong lead, and forms a coalition of dealing with black carbon in the greenhouse gas warming thing, we're going to create more mistrust. It won't be a bridge, it will be tension. So I think many things can be done, but not really in the context of global warming, but on sustainable development. If we just get that done, we will actually be building a lot more bridges.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Wait. I just have to tell you, I'm going to give you a present.
Yes.
And you know, this is honey, and it's from Stockholm. And you know, you've been at the headquarters at Naturskyddsföreningen. It's a stone desert.
Yes.
Yes. And this honey is from there. And it's true. Yeah, you know, the bees, they can find flowers wherever they want. Anyway, it's a good ecosystem services. And also, the honey is, have Naturskyddsföreningen, they got help from Be Urban. So I just have to say it. Be Urban is a good company to help you to get honey. So it's Södermalm's honey.
So this is the red box on the roof of the office.
Yes.
Yes, I know that. Thank you very much.
You've seen the bees.
I've seen the bees.
Yes,
that's
lovely.
why we're hopeful.
Thank you so much.